Happy Halloween, viewers! Well, not quite, but today is still a special day because today is the debut of my very first theory video. Yay! So you clearly read when you click on this video that I believe Roxas has a heart. Now, I'm gonna break my theory up into 3 parts. Explanation, and that's pretty obvious. Then I'll give a few examples on why I believe my theory to be true. And lastly, I'll line the pieces up by saying a few things that don't quite make sense in the Kingdom Hearts series right now, that if my theory were to be true, they would make a lot more sense. So, without further ado, let's hit it.
Oh yeah!
So first up is a little explanation. Now, I love Roxas with all my heart. Get it? Anyways, so I obviously want him to be a full person, his own person, and him to have a happy life and all that jazz. But that's not all that goes into this theory. So, one big thing to explain is, why does Roxas look like Ventus? Now, I've done some research, watched a few videos, and one video in particular by Cynical from the Gamer's Joint got my thoughts a-brewing about this topic. And Cynical actually is one of my favorite YouTubers, and he's a big reason why I decided to start doing my own videos, so a big shout out to him. Please notice me, senpai. But I guess on this video, it's not the best idea to do a shout out for him because his video on why Roxas looks like Ventus, I don't quite believe it. Or I don't agree with it. Because in his video and the what I've looked up on the internet, most people say that Roxas looks like Ventus because when Sora stabbed himself with the Keyblade and released his heart and Kairi's heart, the process of that made Roxas, which is true, but Roxas looks like Ventus because Ventus's heart was within Sora, and so the nobody becoming Roxas just was influenced by Ventus's heart. And I don't believe that. I believe that in this process, Sora's heart and Kairi's heart were released, but Ventus's heart went into Roxas, and that's why Roxas looks like Ventus, because he actually has Ven's heart. Next are a few examples. So you can finally see why I decided to do this video on Halloween. When I was replaying Kingdom Hearts, the first Kingdom Hearts, going through Halloween Town, the Doctor and Jack Skellington actually want to create an artificial heart to put inside the Heartless so that they will be able to obey their commands and whatnot. And then the Doctor said ingredients needed to make a heart, and I know some of these things that the Doctor's that the Doctor listed off, Roxas has definitely done or dealt with, and we've seen him deal with these things. Some of which being fear, and Roxas definitely has a fear that he isn't his own person.
Come on, Sora! I thought you were stronger than that.
Huh? Get real! Look which one of us is winning.
So it's true. You really are his nobody. Guess Diz was right after all.
What are you talking about? I am me! Nobody else!
Riku, please! You have to stop him!
How many times do I have to beat you?
He doesn't want to be just a nobody, so he's afraid that that's the truth, that he's nobody. So that's fear. Hope. He is hopeful that maybe he is his own person, or another example is that he's very hopeful that him and the gang, Shion and Axel, and or Hainer, Pence, Olette, and Olette, will be able to go to the beach eventually. Like, he's hopeful that that's gonna happen.
Maybe today we'll finally hit the beach.
And he's hopeful that they'll be friends forever and stuff like that. And despair, you can clearly see the despair in him losing Shion at the end, and he actually sheds a tear.
No. Shion. Who else will I have ice cream with? Shion.
How is that possible if he doesn't have a heart? Which also ties into emotions. He definitely has emotions. He obviously cried at the loss of Shion. He felt worried about his friends and what was going on with them. He can feel happy, like hanging out with his friends, going to the beach, whatever. So he has quite a few emotions and all these things that in Kingdom Hearts they decided that they need to make a heart, which ultimately I know it didn't work out, but it's still showing similarities that Roxas has a heart, which helps me believe the same thing. And the last part of my theory is lining the pieces up. Yours and Roxas's. So a few things that I believe don't make any sense, but if Roxas were to have a heart, they start making sense. Like, instead of just, why is this happening, it actually has a solid reason on why it happened and stuff. So, the first thing I mentioned in one of my other videos is Lay, Axel, Lay, whatever, when he becomes a person again, he's, well, not whatever, he is actually Lay when he becomes a person again. And you've seen him all this time, and then all of a sudden he just pulls out a Keyblade out of nowhere, and it seemed like it was plot convenience. But if Roxas were to have a heart, this actually makes sense. And I'll just state the other question and then give the answers to both of them at the same time, because it answers another question too, and that's, why does Xemnas not use a Keyblade? He's the leader of Organization 13, and people speculate, or we know that he's So he's the nobody of Terranort that split himself into a Heartless and a nobody. So if Roxas can have a Keyblade by being the nobody of Sora, then Xemnas should have a Keyblade by being the nobody of Terranort, right? But he obviously doesn't use one. And that's not because he's too proud to use one, because he made this whole organization and is busting his hump to keep Roxas in his team, and when that fails, he makes a whole plan on trying to get Sora onto his team. He would not go through all that work if he was just hiding a Keyblade for some proud reasons. So that is clearly he cannot use a Keyblade, but he definitely should be able to if he's a nobody of a Keyblade wielder, if the statement of Roxas being a nobody of a Keyblade wielder gives him one. Now the answer to both of these statements that seem like they don't make sense is that Roxas has a heart. And that is because Roxas has a heart, and to wield the Keyblade you need to have a heart. And that's what I believe, because that would make sense in both of these situations, Lei and Xemnas. Xemnas can't use one because he doesn't have a heart, and Lei can finally use one because when he's done all these good things as Axel, which deems him worthy of having a Keyblade, but he doesn't have a heart. So when he forms back into Lei, he gets a heart back, and now he can have a Keyblade. Because he's worthy, he has the two qualifying things, which is being worthy and having a heart. And that's why Xemnas doesn't have one, because he's a nobody of someone that can wield one, but he doesn't have the other quality of actually having his own heart, so he can't wield his own Keyblade. I hope that made sense. So what I'm saying is, to be a Keyblade wielder, you need to be worthy of a Keyblade, or have ties to a previous Keyblade wielder and a heart. Roxas has ties to a Keyblade wielder, and he has Ven's heart inside him, so he can have a Keyblade. Lei is worthy of having a Keyblade. Now he has a heart, so he can wield a Keyblade. Xemnas has ties to a Keyblade wielder, but does not have a heart, so he does not have a Keyblade. That's what I believe in this theory. So that's why people were saying Lei getting a Keyblade just seems like plot convenience. Why does he have one all of a sudden when he hasn't had one all this time? And also questions on why does Xemnas not have one. I feel like it makes sense with my theory of Roxas having a heart. And I hope you guys do too. But a theory can't be complete without its downfalls. So here's a few things that don't line up with my theory. One contradiction on this theory is, if Roxas has a heart, he clearly said in the beginning of 358 over 2 days, when Axel says, "Are you sure you don't have a heart?" he replies with, "I don't know, but I would be able to feel it, wouldn't I?" Or something along those lines. Sorry, I don't have it down word for word. But so that obviously means that he can't feel a pulse. That means that he clearly can't feel a pulse of a heart beating inside of him. That's also one of the things I skipped over in the Halloween Town segment. The very first thing that they say you need for a heart, other than a container with a lock, is a pulse. And Roxas clearly doesn't have one. And I could chalk this up and try to explain it as Ventus's heart that is in Sora is not complete, so that could lead his heart not to have a pulse, but then Ventus might be dead. So, I don't know. That's one thing. And a second contradiction is specifically about what I said about the three nobodies that I mentioned. Roxas having Ven's heart, and that's why he can wield the Keyblade. Lei finally getting a heart again, and he can wield a Keyblade. And Xemnas not having a heart, so he can't wield the Keyblade. And this thing that I firmly believe in, or I want to firmly believe in, is kind of contradicted with two Keyblade wielders in the Kingdom Hearts series. One is one of my favorite one of my favorite characters, and that's Xion. Now Xion definitely doesn't have a heart, but she can wield the Keyblade. At the beginning it's a fake Keyblade that she has, but as the series goes on, she for sure uses Roxas's real Keyblade throughout the course of the game a few times. So I don't know if that's because she has Sora's memories, and that could possibly give her enough power to wield the Keyblade for an amount of time. I don't know. But also, it's the same thing with another character, which is Data Sora from Kingdom Hearts Coded. He originally has a fake Keyblade that Mickey made for him that was just Data, but throughout the course of the game, he proves himself or something, and he actually gets a real Keyblade. And I can't explain that either, because he definitely doesn't have a heart, because he's just zeros and ones. But somehow he proves himself, and he gets his own Keyblade. And the thing that both Data Sora and Xion have in common is they have Sora's memories. So I don't know if that's a way that you can wield the Keyblade as well, because I guess that would still check out with Xemnas, because Xemnas doesn't have any memories of him being a Keyblade wielder, I don't believe. So that could also be a reason why he can't wield one, and those two characters can. I don't know. And that's dismissed by the fact that Roxas doesn't remember having a Keyblade wielder, because he doesn't remember wielding a Keyblade, but he still can, and that's because he has Ven's heart inside of him. So I guess that's a roundabout way of trying to explain this, but it's still a contradiction that doesn't set right. Which is kind of sad. My theory isn't perfect by any means. But yeah, that's my theory. I hope you stayed this long. If you don't believe what I said, or you clearly don't believe my theory, fight with me, argue with me in my comments. I want to hear ideas. This is just my first theory I've ever had. I want to know what people think, if you agree with it, if you disagree with it. I need feedback to know if I'm on the right track, or I missed something and I'm totally like, none of this is even valid. So it'd be great to hear from you guys. I would really appreciate that. So thanks for watching as usual. I'm Zadis, and I will view you guys later.